Each tribe has its own criteria for determining who is a citizen of their tribe. And you think of tribe as a nation and membership as citizenship in that nation. In the United States, at least for now, if you're born here, you become a U.S. citizen, and there's a process for others to become a U.S. citizen. For tribes, they have different criteria. And the criteria for most tribes is proving a certain percentage of blood from that tribe. So for most, it's 25% of your blood has to come from that tribe. Some have it as high as 50%. Some tribes have eliminated blood quantum and gone to lineal descent from an original tribal member. There's an internal debate that a lot of tribes are having about what should their criteria be for tribal enrollment. Some people are citizens, some people are not. Somebody who might be biologically indigenous or even culturally indigenous, they're connected to their community, they know their language, they might not be eligible for tribal citizenship if they do not meet the blood quantum criteria. And there are a lot of reasons why that gets messed up for people. It's not just people who are multiracial, although the Native population has the highest rate of marriage to people from other racial groups. So the Native population is especially multiracial. And there's more coming for you with your systems and programs, because in 2010, they counted 5 million Native Americans in the census. In 2020, they counted 10 million. And it wasn't because we had that many babies that fast. It's because they let people click more than one box. And because the Native population is so especially multiracial, a lot of counties and schools were like, whoa, we got a lot more Native people than we thought. The 2020 census happened in the middle of a pandemic with a federal administration that was trying to suppress minority counts. So it is probable that the 2030 census will show you 15 million Native people and an even higher count across the board, including in rural counties as well as urban areas. So your numbers probably are higher than they're showing, and they will start showing you higher. There's a lag because of the census every 10 years. So that's one piece. And getting good information and having good ways to count it is difficult. Sometimes even like a county program, depending on how your software is working, or if you're working off of the state system, or which a lot of counties do, or federal systems, they might allow people to click more than one box, but only the first box shows up. Or the labels are complex, because if you put American Indian / Alaska Native and somebody's Canadian First Nations, they're super indigenous, but they're not going to click American Indian. You also have a big shift within the Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latina population, where the brown part doesn't really come from Castile. That's indigenous blood, and a lot of people are increasingly owning their indigenous roots and may be deeply impacted by their cultural experience as an indigenous person, but they're in a totally different category, and they're kind of in the midst of shifting that denominator from a racial category to an ethnic category. So you get that, and you get a drop-down menu, and you can click, well, white or not white. That's pretty limiting. But now they're giving you more, right? They're talking about expanding that. Like if you ever go to the Dominican Republic, like the population is predominantly black, but Spanish speaking. So white, not white doesn't quite tell you everything you need to know. The data, that's one piece. Also, like some of the work is going to happen working directly with tribes and tribal programs. And that's the part it seems like you're asking mainly about. But also doing direct work with the Native citizens throughout your entire service area. And some may be tribal members, some might not be. And the tribe is not going to be the only arbiter to help you connect to Native people. Like everybody else, we're busy moving around, falling in love with whoever, like you will find people from many tribes in your county, not just Upper Sioux, even though that's the most visible piece because it's a Native nation right here with visible infrastructure and a tribal government. So I would say you need to do both. Direct outreach to the Native people in your county and service area, and continue to work with the tribes. Couple things with tribes. So, and I can talk about the per caps too, because that's an important dimension of your question. In working with tribes, bear in mind, the tribal chair is running hundreds of millions of dollars in programs. They don't answer their own email. They don't answer their own phone calls. Starting there, you're going to be priority number 432 for the day, and they probably won't get to it. However, you probably have lots of other tribal agencies and programs depending on the type of lane of the work that you're doing. Tribes have their own human service programs. They have their own, support programs for financial assistance. They have, all kinds of things. So looking for counterparts in the agencies, you may get a better answer to your email and phone call, and they may be better at helping you build a network of the right people to talk to about different things so you can work on programs together. Tribes care about their citizens, and they understand that a lot of their own citizens also have children and grandchildren who are not citizens. Mainly to answer the call of their own citizens, they are extending support sometimes to the children and grandchildren of their own citizens. So there may be ways to work cooperatively, in a variety of ways. That will only catch, if you're talking to Upper Sioux, their citizens and the people that they say that they want to be responsible to. You have lots of other natives in your area too. Now, with regard to per caps, it's different in different places. There are 10 million native people in the US Census, and there are several hundred, I will say some thousands, several thousand even, who are receiving some level of a per cap. It is a tiny percentage of the native population that receives a per cap or even an educational benefit. You happen to be in a part of planet Earth where the 4 Dakota communities have very small tribal populations, numbering in the hundreds, and in a relative measure compared to other tribes, larger casino complexes, especially for Shakopee right next to the Twin Cities metro. And so it reflects in the type of supports they're able to offer. So the Dakota communities are offering per capita payments. It's very different at Shakopee than it is even at Upper Sioux, but it is still significant. The Ojibwe reservations in Minnesota, for the most part, are not doing per caps. Mille Lacs has just started a couple years ago, and it's pretty small. And so there's still need for lots of people need energy and housing assistance and other things like that. When you look at even the data set I was just showing, we did go from 57% to 23% below the poverty line, but 23% below the poverty line is really high. You got a lot of people who need basic supports and programs. I would say operating with that understanding will be helpful, but trying to figure out a way to have a direct approach with the citizens throughout your service area, in addition to liaison work with the tribe, will help. I do think tribes have been smart and thoughtful about how they invest their money, diversifying their business plan, but you just never know what's going to happen. It used to be too that the tribes, when they first started a per cap, the Dakota communities, as soon as a kid turned 18, they were out of school. And they said, well, we're going to put in a graduation requirement. Amazing, 100% graduation, at Shakopee. And so, I do think that tribes are trying to be thoughtful about encouraging the development of their own citizenry, and they want their folks to populate positions and, be at the service of their people. Depending on which parts of the programs and offerings you have, you are needed. Native nations have a nation-to-nation relationship with the U.S. federal government. This is it's in the U.S. Constitution, back to the Founding Fathers and the Federalist Papers and stuff. They said all powers are reserved by the states, except for certain defined federal powers, an army for the common defense, a system of taxation and laws. And so the Trade and Intercourse Clause says that only Congress, meaning only the U.S. federal Congress, shall regulate trade between the several states and various Indian tribes. And it establishes a federal government to tribal government, nation-to-nation relationship. So one of the things you'll find with a place like Upper Sioux is they get frustrated with state governments, county governments, and everyone else demanding direct communication. Sometimes they won't even participate in some of the state committees, or they'll participate by sitting on the side, technically not at the table, but they'll still say stuff. Because what they're trying to communicate is we have a nation-to-nation relationship with the federal government. And they're also trying to say, please don't waste our time. So this is just a layer that can complicate your communication efforts to serve the people that you serve. Is, when it comes down to it, they care about their people. They are not going to walk away from important work that will be at the best service of their people. But at the same time, they're trying to teach the world that we have a nation-to-nation relationship. We want that respected and honored in policy, statute, and practice. And then, of course, we want our people to have all resources available, to serve their needs. So that's just something you'll bump into sometimes in how you communicate and so forth.